What's up, everybody? Big night in Norman, Oklahoma. Oklahoma versus SMU. Sooners ranked 18th. Final score of this thing, 28-11. Hey, they covered. They covered the 15.5 or 16.5, depending on when you placed your bet during the week. But this was a tight game. Went into the fourth quarter at 14-3, 14 to, man, I mean, SMU was threatening, had to get turned back. They 14-11 at one point. Final score 28-11. Oklahoma held on to win. And they held on. I'm sorry, but there's no other way to say it. The Sooners held on. I wrote the story, wrote the headline, overcame mistakes, and I said, boy, this is going to make some people mad. They overcame mistakes. That's all you take. That's one of the first things Brent Venables said. We overcame some basic mistakes, but we also made a lot of good plays.
Yeah, they knew, Oklahoma said all week, SMU was going to be a different test than Arkansas State, especially offensively. And guys, it wasn't always pretty. I wrote that. That was my first observation, first takeaway, is that it wasn't pretty. Chunk plays, some missed assignments, some penalties that Randall's going to get into, but when it mattered, Oklahoma dug deep. They found a way to respond defensively. 4 of 16, that's what SMU went on third down, something Brent Venables talked about all offseason long. Got to be better both sides of the football, third downs. Oklahoma accomplished that today and had some big plays. Not defense, but a defender. Peyton Bowen starts the game off with a blocked punt that he wasn't even supposed to rush on. You'll get that story at AllSooners.com. He had a clutch fourth down pass breakup as well that really helped seal the game for Oklahoma. Justin Harrington had a interception to seal it. Key Lawrence erased a 24-yard rush with a punch, and Woody Washington didn't touch the ball so that Danny Stutzman could recover it. Again, it wasn't overwhelming, it wasn't dominant, it wasn't a shutout. Oklahoma good on third downs, forced the takeaways, and their big-time players made those plays when they needed them.
The takeaway from this game is Oklahoma had some defensive takeaways. They made some nice plays on offense. Brent Venables said in his post-game press conference, this might be one of those games that we lost last year. That says it all. I mean, it's 14-11 going into the fourth quarter. Sooners scored 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They were fresher, they were deeper, they were more aggressive, they were stronger. They had a lot going on in the fourth quarter, Randall.
Yeah, and I think that these penalties throughout the rest of the game, like Ryan mentioned, that really slowed them down. And OU finished with 8 penalties for over 90 yards to SMU's 2 for 15 yards, and that really kept SMU in the game. It kept their offense moving on a few of those drives. But late in the fourth quarter, OU was able to really, put the pedal to the metal. They kind of pulled away. Once SMU got within striking distance, they really, it seemed like OU put their foot on the gas, and on offense, they started calling some more creative plays, some plays that, maybe we were more used to seeing them run. And not the bland kind of rushing attack that we saw throughout the middle of this game. And that really helped them on offense. On defense, in the fourth quarter, they put their foot on SMU's throat. They didn't let them really move the ball too much. I think the one time late in the fourth quarter that SMU did move the ball, it ended in a Justin Harrington interception. So despite those struggles with penalties, some of those mental errors, the Sooners were able to overcome that tonight.
What was interesting to me was the contributions from the running backs and the passing game. We talked about that all through the preseason. Tonight we saw it 5 catches, about 50 yards, a couple of long ones, one touchdown there by Marcus Major to kind of seal the game. A couple of numbers for you guys. Tawee Walker with his first career 100-yard game on the Division I football level, 117 yards on 21 carries. He was a load tonight, and then Dylan Gabriel's stats ended up not too bad. 19 of 27, 176 yards. Ryan, it was kind of a bumpy start, though.
The offense today looked a lot like the Oklahoma offense last year. They did it a little bit slower. They were able to chew some clock even when there wasn't success, but there were play calling questions, I think, from the fans who were booing some of the decisions. We were scratching our head up in the press box at certain points with Jeff Levy, and Justin Harrington said it, or Peyton Bowen said it, excuse me, that at a point in the middle of the game, the offense was calling things pretty conservatively. You saw a number of times it felt like Oklahoma's run into a brick wall. Brent Venables talked about how many hats SMU was committing to the run game, but Jeff Levy, he kept after it, and kept after it with Marcus Major, who was not very effective until the second half. Finally, the Sooners found a little bit with Tawee Walker. Javonte Barnes, wonder where he is. Gavin Sawchuk still getting back up to speed. Thank goodness for Tawee Walker on the Oklahoma front. Finally got that offense moving, but just we talked about how explosive it was last week. Andrew Anthony, first touchdown of the game, 29 yards. Oklahoma didn't have another 20-yard plus completion until Jalil Farouk scored, and he even had to make some guys miss. Drop passes, everything that plagued Oklahoma last year, that frustrated fans with the offense, it popped back up tonight, so plenty for the Sooners to work on before they head to Tulsa.
OU with 22 first downs, SMU with 21. When SMU scored to make it 14-11, by the way, that was not pass interference on Peyton Bowen. That was a bad call, I thought. But Peyton Bowen took the high road and said, I got to be better in my technique. I get it. That's what you're supposed to say. But after that play and after the two-point conversion, both teams had 327 net yards total offense. Tells you how equal this game was. Randall, tell us about the feeling on the field, the pad popping and the crowd, the 82,000, 83,000,
84 and some change.
164 or something like that.
Yeah.
It was super loud down here, especially when Jackson Arnold came in with his sub package.
Yeah, I mean, it was rocking at the Palace tonight. You know, a lot of SMU, Ryan mentioned it, 16 third down attempts, and they obviously had a few fourth down attempts too. And on those plays, I mean, it was loud. It was, you know, SMU was having trouble hearing the play call. They had to send Preston Stone back and forth from the huddle to the sideline to get that play call because it was too loud in here for him to hear it from the field. I mean, obviously, I think that plays a huge factor in for OU's defense. It's a real help for them. And, you know, I think that, you know, we saw Andrell Anthony talk about it in the post-game press. We saw him tweet about it before this week. He said, you know, the energy here in the stadium has been electric these past two games, and I think that obviously, you know, being a 5 o'clock kick, not having to kick off at 11 o'clock where it's not as hot. The weather was actually pretty nice once the sun set past the stadium today, so the energy in the Palace on the Prairie was great. It was a loud environment, just what you want from an Oklahoma football game in September. And Ryan, to your point about Levy, he even said in his post-game press conference that he was too conservative, and I think the fans agreed with that. They let him hear it on some of those third downs where they would, you know, call a draw play, or, you know, so when they weren't a fan of Jeff Levy's play calling, you know, there were boos raining down here.
Something else the fans were not too fond of is a photo that surfaced after the game of the one and only infamous Art Briles here on the field wearing OU gear afterwards. The photo was taken by Parker Thune, former AllSooners employee, down here with a camera. He's Jeff Levy's father-in-law. Brent Venables said simply, I found out about that after the game. That's being handled. So 28-11, Sooners win this thing. They moved to 2-0 on the season, but like Brent likes to say, nobody around here is beating their chest. Next week, road game, sort of, at the University of Tulsa. Things already sold out. Press box is full. Sidelines are going to be full. Be here at AllSooners all week. We got it covered.